Ready to go if you are.
I'm ready.
All right.
Sound okay?
Yes, you sound great. And look great too.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I try.
So you are in Johannesburg?
No, I'm in Cape Town.
Oh, you're in Cape Town. Okay, great.
Nice.
And
Cape
I guess
Town
before
it's prettier than Joburg.
it's what?
It's prettier. It's nicer. It's more beautiful than Joburg.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. But I guess before we start, we should confirm how you pronounce your name. Is it Tola or Thola?
Yes, Tola.
Tola,
So
okay.
think of me as taller than you. I always say that to people so they can remember.
That's a great way. That's a great way to make the name.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Tola, we are so excited to sit down with you on this lovely evening for us.
Yeah.
In Cape Town, what time is it for you?
Morning time, 10 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, just after 10.
Good. Starting the day.
Yeah. We're really excited to have someone like you on the show because, like us, you know what it's like to host your own podcast and become a content creator, which is something we're really excited to bond with you on today.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
As your background, your lovely background shows today, the name of your podcast is Phoenix Rising, right?
Yes. So the complete name is Phoenix Rising, Finding Your Life Calling with Tola Beni. I'm saying that because I know there are lots of Phoenix Rising when you look up podcasts.
Yeah.
So
right.
Yeah.
It's a very used name for many purposes, and I feel like it fits very well for your specific brand. But yeah, it is everywhere.
Do you want to tell us a little bit more about how you came up with that name?
Yes, I would love to. So how many years ago now? Almost 3 years ago, I lost my job. I was laid off. And I was in a job that I really, really loved. I was in medical research. And so having spent a better part of my life working in medical research. And so when I lost my job, I was just like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? But initially, I didn't panic. To be honest, I just thought, I've got a good CV. I've been working all these years, and it's going to be easy to find another job. So, I kind of like, this is good. I'm going to take some time to myself. And then after a few months, I'll start looking for another job. Well, it turned out that the universe had a different idea. They always say, so I don't know if you guys are Christians or not, but they always say, if you want to see God laugh, you must tell him your plans.
Yeah.
So those were my plans, that I'm going to take a few months. I'll do whatever I like. Then after a few months, I'll, start sending out my CV and looking for another job. And I did. And nothing came out of it. So every door was firmly closed. And I grew, more frustrated by the day. I became very frustrated, and I didn't understand why. So eventually I did life coaching training, and I got certified as a coach. And just as I was about to launch my business, we had COVID. So all countries went into lockdown.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh my gosh, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
So, I'm sitting at home and I'm thinking, what do I do with myself? So I start blogging. And I understand, Wendy, you are also a fellow blogger. So I started blogging and just really talking about my experiences living under lockdown, just putting it down, writing about what's going on. And then I started interviewing people because I thought, it would be nice to hear from other people. How are you coping with lockdown? How is it affecting your business or your career? But what I used to do was send people a questionnaire and say, would you mind completing this for me? And then I would transcribe that onto my blog. And I started thinking, wouldn't it be nice, though, if this was maybe a face-to-face conversation or, even just over the phone? It would flow better because then I can ask probing questions and whatnot. And so at the same time, I was learning French. I did French back in my university days, but time on my hands, I started going back to my French lessons, and I found out that they had a podcast, the app that I was using. So that's how I started listening to other podcasts. I was listening to a French podcast, and then I started finding all these other interesting podcasts. And so things started, just gelling together, ideas being formed in my head that, I can actually have my own podcast. And so then that's how I launched the podcast. But the label Phoenix Rising really, because when I started my podcast, I was talking about how I lost it all and how I was now on the path to recreating my life. So a phoenix rising, is, as Juan said, it's quite a commonly used phrase, because it's about a phoenix bends down and loses everything, and then it rises from the ashes. So that's where the name comes from. It's about me rising from the ashes and recreating my life. So yeah,
That's
in a
wonderful.
nutshell, I know I've said a lot.
Yeah.
No, it's a
No.
wonderful story. I feel like, in a way, the age of COVID has given birth to a lot of ventures and people's dreams to be able to at least have the opportunity to be bred, and the serendipity that has happened to so many people to have given themselves the opportunity to, like, let's just try this, because I don't have any other choice. And I think, as you mentioned, like, you didn't choose to lose your job, you lost it, and you were forced to, like, okay, let's just try something different. And like, I know at the moment, like, it probably feels really, really bad, and like, we've had our own setbacks, and I'm sure our listeners too have had their own setbacks in this
Absolutely.
really bizarre last 2 years. But it is wonderful to hear stories of success, or at least people who have grown and become different, become better. Because not everything is necessarily about success. It's about how you move forward
Right.
in life and what you choose
Oh,
to
yes.
do.
So, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that it's totally just that some people have been knocked down by what these past couple of years have thrown at us, and it's understandable that some people have just been not taking it well at all. But to hear a story like yours, where you have faced that adversity, but you really took it and ran with it, and you gave yourself that opportunity to go in a different direction and really grow and explore different avenues. So I really admire you for that. And I guess we can also relate to that, because this is where our podcast was kind of born too.
Yeah.
So it's nice to kind of connect our stories.
That's amazing. And I mean, if we leave this episode with, having shared one thing that people can learn from us, it's that life is adversity. It happens to all of us. It's really about what you do with it. When they say life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond, I absolutely believe that, because we can each experience exactly the same thing, right? But what we do with it is what then defines the future for each of us. So, yeah.
That's right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can you walk us through a little bit of how you started? You said you started with a blog, and then how did it unfold to become a podcast and then a YouTube channel?
Yes. So the most beautiful thing that happened to me when I started the blog was to discover the writer in me. I didn't know. Again, I want to emphasize how adversity brings out the best in us. I often say, had I not lost my job, I would still be sitting behind my desk and looking at statistics, and I was making a difference. That's what I thought I was doing, because all I ever wanted in life was to make a difference in other people's lives. And so I've always gone into careers where I feel I'm making a difference, right? So no disrespect to that job at all, because I was making an impact in my own way. I was doing HIV prevention research, so looking at ways to prevent the spread of HIV. To me, that was big. I was part of something big. But to go back to what I was saying, had I not lost that, I would still be doing that. But I lost that so that I could discover other gifts that I have. So blogging. When I started writing my first blog, it was amazing. Something just went in my head like, oh my gosh, this is exciting. I can, me writing and telling a story of what happened to me today. Then the blog led on to other good things. Because after the blog, so my blog is more of a lifestyle blog. So I write about my travels because I'm a big fan of traveling. I write about a healthy lifestyle because I'm a big fan of the gym and eating healthy. So I combined all the things that I'm passionate about and I started blogging about those things, right? And then a book. It's in exercising and healthy life. It was now me discovering, I'm happily shaped. Exciting. So you see the steps, me discovering these things about myself. And then, as I indicated earlier, I started interviewing other people and realizing that I love this. I love interviewing people, exchanging experiences. I come alive. It also, I guess, it comes from the fact that when I was a researcher, a big part of what I was doing was study human behavior because I have a psychology background. And I've been asking questions all my life, asking questions about what do you do to prevent the spread of HIV? Why is it difficult for you to use a condom? Trying to understand human behavior. And so when I started podcasting and I started asking people questions, I realized I love this. I really love asking people about their lives and the whole exchange that I get from that. And then what was the next step? So the podcast, yes, was launched in that way. You asked me about something else, but now I've forgotten what it was. From blogging to podcasting, to YouTube.
YouTube too, yeah.
Again, I, started being led into meeting like really relevant people who are now directing kind of, when you see your life being channeled in a certain direction, you start meeting a different tribe, if I can put it that way. So now you are my tribe because you are fellow bloggers, you are fellow podcasters. So it's a new tribe that I'm coming into contact with. And in that way, through podcasting, I started meeting people and attending things like Clubhouse with fellow bloggers from around the world. I mean, not bloggers, podcasters are talking about podcasting, how to grow your podcast. And one of the, groups that I belong in now is how to grow your podcast, via YouTube. And so attending those seminars and learning, starting my own YouTube channel, these are the things to look out for. And, getting people who are advanced in that area to share how they have, got to where they are. And, let's launch a YouTube channel. So it's like little steps, but they add up and, then we start to grow in that direction. So these days I go with the label content creator. I never saw myself as a content creator. I was a psychologist. I was doing research. So, yeah.
I guess it's very interesting. Again, as you said, like God, when he saw your idea of your plans, he was like, you have no idea.
Throw a pandemic at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, here's a pandemic. Because, when I thought, I've lost my job, let me look for another job. And God was like, no, you have no idea how many CVs I sent out. And I would get a rejection every time. And I'm like, I can't understand. I have a good CV.
Yeah.
I have a lot.
I can sympathize with that. I can definitely sympathize with that. I think people who are resilient and have gone through a lot of challenges through life, like understand that the world is not telling you you're not good. It's just telling
Yes.
you this is not for you. And for a lot of people who grew up being told that, like, oh, you can have everything you want, like, that's very difficult to accept. But you have to understand that, like, you have very little control over that. You can only control how you react. It's like you were saying that there's a saying from Tony Robbins that said that he says life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. So
Yes.
all these things that we are all living are a chance for us to break from the direction, the path that we're going, which is maybe not the right path, and start instead walking into the right direction. And it's not going to be easy for a lot of people who have the capacity to say, like, no, I don't like where this is going. I'm gonna take a risk and go in this other direction. 90% of people can't do that. They see a risk and they're like, no, I don't want risks. I want safe. I like comfort. I like
security,
doing the same thing every day. And that's where we were at some point in our lives. Like you said, like if you haven't lost your job, you would still be there, right? The thought of like, oh, what if I try to do something completely different, like content creation? You couldn't even fathom that. You're like,
no,
how could I pay my rent?
Exactly.
But now that life happened for you, you've been thrust into this situation where you just had to provide. You had to be creative. You had to develop yourself. And the lucky ones who rise to the occasion on those situations become better people. And some people just like shied away and then just like crumble, like, oh, life happened to me, and become victims. And then they just self-destruct, which is very sad. But
yeah,
it's
and my thing is, you will never change the world by just sitting in your security blanket. I mean, yes, I get it. Not everyone is a risk taker. You know, we all have so far we can go. And 100% right. I would have never left my job. I never saw myself, one, as a content creator. I never saw myself as a business person. I said those words time and again. I am not a business person. Time and again, I said, all I want to do is to work for a salary, get my salary at the end of the month, and that's all I want, and retire at 60 or 55 if I'm lucky. That's all I ever asked for. But again, God, the universe, whoever you believe in, had other plans. And had God not taken my job away from me, and now I feel like, oh my gosh, there's so much I can do. There's a whole world out there that I can tap into. There's so many things I can influence. I've been given a platform to change people's lives, right? You said you want to change people's lives, right? So here we go. Here's a platform. And, it feels good. Yes, it doesn't have the security of, a paycheck at the end of the day. But I still think I sleep better at night in some weird way.
It is funny that we say that, like, oh, I just want to have the security of a paycheck. But you cannot really say that you were secure because you lost your job.
Right.
And people can lose their jobs. So nobody's safe.
Look at what the pandemic... Sorry, go ahead, Wendy.
Oh, no, please finish what you wanted to say.
No, I was just confirming or emphasizing what Juan is saying is that what the pandemic has done. No one is safe anymore. People who I don't know about other countries, but in South Africa, surely people who were kind of safe during the pandemic were people who had government jobs, right?
Yes.
Because the government still has to run.
Right.
But everybody else, the supermarkets were downsizing because the hours were shorter. the hairdressers, no one was going to a hairdresser.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? No job, no whatever was safe during that time. So yes, you can never say that you are safe. The trick is to learn to fly during those, or to say, okay, what do I have? What do I tap into to go forward?
Right. And to rise to the occasion, rise from the ashes, as your brand name says too. I just wonder, because we've been thinking a lot about going back to the 9 to 5, the typical work schedule, and it's not appealing to us at all. It's not something that we want to return to, and maybe we'll have to for some time, but we want to keep moving forward. And even though our podcast is still very small right now, we want to turn it into something bigger and invest even more into it. And I just wonder if you can picture yourself going back to that office job at all after establishing your company.
I love this question. So no, the short answer is no. The long answer, I have a short answer and a long answer. The long answer is, Wendy, look, I get it. There are bills to be paid. And so, yes, so the paycheck, at least, even though we've just said no jobs are guaranteed, but when you have it, for that moment you have it, the security of the paycheck is, it's nice to have. Your bills are paid and you have food in your tummy and all of those things. I completely get it. And I am not saying that I will never, ever entertain. I will not entertain going back to work for someone 9 to 5, personally. I can do freelancing, but freelancing gives me the freedom of determining my own hours. So that I can take on, because that one will give me some kind of a paycheck. But two, I'm not working for someone. No one is telling me to sit at my desk at 9 and log off at 5. That I cannot see myself doing anymore. So I hope I've answered your question.
No, sure, absolutely. I feel a lot of people nowadays feel very similarly. Mm-hmm. Like once you taste that like freedom, like I cannot eat that anymore.
Or even just working from home too. I don't want to go back to the office and have to ask to go to the restroom.
Yeah, a lot of studies have shown that a vast majority of people just don't want to work full time on, like, have to commute back to work. They want to at least have the option of some days of the week be able to work from home. So the world has changed a lot in these last few years. A lot of people need to be, I wouldn't necessarily say forced, but put into a situation where they get to find out their own capacities. Like, because a lot of people would say, I don't think I can do freelancing. Like as you say, I'm not a business person. I don't know how to manage my own time, all that kind of stuff. I like just having someone telling me where I have to be, when I have to be there. And then they can tell me like, okay, every end of the month I have a paycheck, so I can count on that. And that's the security they want. Mm-hmm. But most people, if they're pushed into the situation where like, you just have to figure it out, go out there, try to find clients, try to find something that you can be good at, good enough that people can pay for what you do. And they realize like, oh, okay, I can survive, I can thrive. They would never want to go back, because what we accept as normal, as like, oh, that's okay. Like, yeah, I have a commute of 1 hour each way every day. That's fine. But once you have the independence, the freedom, you're like, I was commuting 1 hour every day. That's crazy.
That's right? Crazy.
Yeah.
And also, I understand, again, the security of wanting to just work for someone and having them tell you what to do and pay you what they think you are worth, not what you are worth, by the way. It's what they think you are worth. I totally understand that, because going into business is not easy. Let's not fool people. It's not. It takes guts, because, I mean, you and I were talking about growing our podcast. It's a grind. You work and work and work, and nobody thanks you maybe, or your numbers are not growing as much as you want them to grow. There is no money. You cannot get sponsors because your podcast is still small. And every time you approach a sponsor, they say, what are your numbers? And, because they are so fixated on the numbers, they're not fixated on the impact you're making.
Well, I think we know we could talk to you forever about the topics we're on.
And when I talk about things I love, I talk forever. So
we're going to try and wrap it up here just for the sake of time. But we really appreciate all the wisdom you've had to offer us. And we really enjoy hearing from another content creator on how your journey has been, especially in the midst of a pandemic, which hopefully we'll be out of soon. But
can you tell briefly our listeners how they can find you?
Oh, yes, I would love to. So I'm on all social media platforms. So Instagram, I actually have 2 accounts. It is Phoenix dash, is it a dash? No, it's an underscore. Phoenix underscore rising 00. And the business one is, again, Phoenix dash rising life coach. And it's the same on Facebook. I go by the label Phoenix Rising. But also, I mean, you can always search for Tola Beni, my name. And YouTube, the podcast, my podcast has a channel on YouTube. Again, it goes under the name Phoenix Rising Podcast. So that's on YouTube. And I'm on, other things like LinkedIn and all of those things. And my website, I haven't been blogging much lately, again, because too many pots on the fire. Some pots are going to get forgotten for a moment. But my blog is called ZuluSingleandFab.com.
I love that.
I love
that name. That's wonderful. Well, Tola, thank you so much for your time. It's so wonderful being able to connect with a new friend across the world in South Africa.
I know. Thank you both so much for having me and everyone I meet. So you stuck with me now. I'm always going to say, I have friends in Tokyo.
Absolutely.
You
do. Yeah.